All right, guys, welcome back to the Failing Stars podcast. We talk about all things precision rifle from gear and matches and try to bring on some cool people doing some really cool stuff. And all I ask in return is if you get some value out of the show, we make you laugh or you learn something, share the show with a friend. And today we've got another pretty unique individual that wears a lot of hats and is doing some pretty cool stuff. Marcus Olsson is here joining us. Marcus, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. You?
I am awesome. Thank you for coming on. Marcus is the president of the IPRF. He's part of the Swedish Open team and now works for Zero Compromise. And so um, we've been chatting a little bit, but Greg is the one that nominated you to come on here, and he said that he thought it was one, you were someone worth talking to, but he also wanted to screw with you a little bit. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, well, Greg always says that he wants to screw with you and him to try to mess with you, but it's like deep down he's just like I don't know if he could genuinely screw with anyone because he's just a nice individual.
I know. I know. I freaking love Greg. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about IPRF starting out. So for those that don't know, can you kind of explain like what is the organization and what are y'all putting together?
So, how do you break this down short in a short explanation? But so the IPRF was the idea of it was started. We started talking about it like in 2018, I think it was, and in
Okay.
2019 it started going into actual a project that we started working on. It was me, Rob Ramsden, and a few others. Scott Satterley was in there as well, and so we all met and had a meeting at the Guardian match in Ireland in 2019, and kind of kicked it off there, and really started the work on trying to get an organization that would legitimize precision rifle as an actual sport because there wasn't any like international sports framework federation that could handle the sport and be approved by the countries and their shooting sports federations and everything. So we looked at what we had was the PRS who had a really good series going and everything, but looking from an international perspective, it would be a little bit like going to your national shooting federation, who in many countries are the ones who you need to be approved by to have a rifle sport, and telling them like, hey, I've signed this sport with a company that like a for-profit company owned by a man, and that you need a certain framework with constitutional meetings, and everyone else needs to be elected. You have secretaries, you have VPs, presidents, all the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
And to get this whole thing going and to gain credit and just to make it credible as well, you need world championships. It's like what is a world federation without a championship? So we started
Okay.
working on that, and we wanted to have it somewhere, a championship somewhere in 2020 or 2021, but obviously COVID hit. So we're like, okay, we're going to sit back and see when we can do this. And the work began, and there was a lot of countries who joined up pretty quickly. I mean, some countries doesn't really need an international governing body to be able to do rifle sports, like U.S. or you guys really don't need that, but it's nice for to be a part of.
Right.
But other countries, we had. I'm not gonna name the country because I'll probably get it wrong, and someone will give me shit on the next meeting. But they could go to the range during COVID, thanks to the just being a part of an international federation. If they hadn't, they would have been not be able to go to the range and practice for like 3 years
Wow.
because they were only allowed to practice actual sports. And if it's a little bit what's first, the chicken or the egg, and they needed the like to be a part of an international sporting federation to do that, and they were quite happy about it to be able to go shoot, obviously. But
Yeah, dude, that's wild.
yeah, so it's a lot of those things that we kind of exist to help countries out with being able to practice their sport. In some countries, it's been like for Sweden. Previously, we've all only been able to apply for a license on our gun on a hunting license. There's not that many restrictions for a PRS gun on a hunting license, but there are some small. And after some work and getting this whole sport a little bit more legitimized, we actually gained a momentum enough to be a part of the National Shooting Sports Federation, and then be able to apply for sport shooting licenses on the firearms, which opens it up a little bit more.
Okay. And so, okay, so I talked with Seppo a little bit when we did his. Is y'all's hunting license like a huge deal to get there?
It's pretty difficult. Like for Sweden, at least, I can't talk for the other countries, but for a lot of the Scandinavian countries, it's two written tests with about 80 questions each. They're like it's not easy to get, and then you have shooting tests for like 3 or 4 different. You have to shoot like 22s, clay pigeons, running targets with moose, like that kind of stuff. So it's a process, and it usually costs you a couple of grand to get.
That's crazy.
So yeah, so getting it into having it like as a standalone recognized sport allows you to just join a shooting club and be active for I think it's like 6 months or something. And then the shooting club can sign off a document saying that you're an active member of the club and that you can apply for a license on a rifle, which that way you don't have to go to hunting route. Obviously, you can't hunt with a rifle that's on a sport shooting license, but I mean,
You
if you're not a
can't?
hunter,
Is
that
that
doesn't matter. Yeah, no, you cannot.
okay?
So
Uh,
you can compete with a hunting rifle, but you cannot hunt with a sport shooting license.
okay. And are there restrictions on the different types of firearms that fall under those two classifications?
So it's kind of like no, not really. In Sweden, we're kind of blessed on that. It's like a magazine restriction for semi-automatics for hunting, but for bolt actions there isn't any.
Okay.
So the only issue that we've had in the past is that the police who handles all the licenses, they've been opposed a little bit to how what a rifle should look like. Up until recently, they removed that part of the law. But before that, you had issues if you wanted to buy a rifle on a hunting license, and then they asked you for a picture of what it looked like. It had to look a certain way, and putting like a KRG chassis on it, they're like, no, 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 no. So, but it
That's
wasn't illegal
crazy.
to have that. It wasn't illegal to have that KRG chassis on there, for example, or MDT or whatever. But
Yeah.
if you applied for a license with that chassis on there, they'd be like, no, that looks like a military gun. But by law, you were allowed to have it, but their opinion was so different.
Okay. Um, are y'all's barrels serialized?
Yeah, the barrels are serialized. Barrels and actions are serialized.
Is the bolt?
Uh, it kind of depends on what type. So it can be. So you can apply for at least this is in Sweden. I can't talk for the other countries, but so
Yeah.
you can apply for a license on a standalone action, and then usually you also have to have a license for the bolt, and then you get serialized. I think it's serialized either way, but maybe not just written out on the license.
Okay.
And then you get a separate license on the barrel. But if you get everything as a rifle, then it's only the action you need serializing. So you can
Okay.
buy it as separate components or like a complete package.
If so, and if you get it as a complete rifle and then need to swap barrels,
Oh,
is
that's fairly easy.
okay.
You just go to the gunsmith, he'll swap it for you and he'll take your old barrel as a trade in and just put the new one in.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
No, it's pretty good actually.
Okay. No, it's so interesting because every country is so wildly different that it's so neat to learn how everyone
Oh
does
yeah, I
things.
mean it's very different. Especially like you go around in Europe, in certain countries you cannot replace the barrel at all, so you have to like buy a new barreled action. So I think Spain
Damn.
is one of those countries who had that issue. I'm not sure if it's like I don't take my word for it. I
Yeah.
think it's Spain who has that issue where they can't replace the barrel, so they have to buy a completely new rifle or barreled action.
We need to tell Tate to open up shop in Spain.
Well, good luck with that. We were looking
Yeah.
actually at having so before we had the World Championship, the first one in France in 22. Uh, we looked at several other countries, and Spain was on the radar briefly for that, but it was, I think they've sorted some of it out, but at the time there was like huge problems in transporting that. Like even the amount of ammunition for a PRS match, there were some issues around that. It's just, it's things get better, and I don't know. At least I'd like to believe that some of what the IPRF doing is helping out with making the whole climate around precision rifle shooting sports better for both law enforcement and governments. That whole
Yeah,
thing to prove a
I mean,
better.
I would think it is. I mean, because I do think, and I can be wrong, but I do think a chunk of um how laws are looked at and what laws are looked at being written have to do with public perception of firearms.
Oh, for
And
sure.
if every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a decked out bolt gun wherever you are, it just becomes normal, and it's not a an issue or something to be scared of or whatever the case may be. And then it's
Yeah, for sure. Because if you look at it like a country, you have precision rifle as a shooting sport within that country. There's no governing or international body that's like collects all these countries together and see like you can have all these organizations are members of this place. It's
mhm,
it's not like the PRS where you have a guy running a series, but you have like a shooting sports federation in that country who's a member of, like, it all adds up. And so
mhm,
when you present your case to your local government or local shooting sports federation, and it's like, hey, we're running this type of sport, it's not uncommon, there's a national or an international federation handling it, and there's 30 nations that's a part of it, they're all actively competing on an international scale with world championships.
yeah,
That makes the sport look better, and that makes it easier for people to get going.
that's awesome. Okay, and so Greg kind of explained how the U.S. Precision Rifle Association is correlated with the IPRF. Does I'm assuming, does every country that's a part of the IPRF have their own leg, or that operates like the USPRA, or like a
Pretty much,
recognized
like,
entity?
yeah, this is like 30 of them to keep a track on, and I always blame that I'm a welder by trade to start out with, so I don't have all the brains. But uh, so pretty much every country needs a separate member organization to be a part of it, and there's different tiers of, like, if you're a full member or associate member or that kinds of stuff. It's all written into the constitution of the organization,
Okay,
and it's so a country's membership is based on where they're at in their process of getting precision rifle as a legitimized sport within their country.
gotcha. Okay, and so he kind of broke down like that a large portion of like what they're doing is having to come up with the selection process to choose the U.S. teams. And we kind of went into how they're doing it for 2026. Do all of the countries follow the same selection process, or is each country able to determine their own selection criteria?
No, so each country can decide their own selection criteria because
Okay.
everyone's different. So if you're looking for at Seppo, which is from Germany, they do not have center fire matches
Mm, okay.
because of, I don't know why, but they're not allowed to they don't have any ranges for it, and I don't think they're allowed to do it on private land either. So the German guys usually go to matches in other countries. So thankfully they can set up their own qualification criteria, maybe for matches in Italy or in
Okay.
France or something like that. Sweden, we only do it's a 4 matches. So it's a 2 year qualification process, and it's 4 matches a year, and your top 3 scores count.
Okay.
And Norway, I think, does something similar. But it's up to the individual country to decide on a qualification process. Some just pick and choose among their top shooters from maybe their national PRS series or something like that. I know that Norway has a sort of a PRS series,
Okay.
and I think I lost you there, the audio, actually, to be honest now.
Are we good?
Yeah, we good now. Now we're back.
Okay.
I don't know what happened, but something happened.
So
No, so Norway has their own PRS series, and I know Britain has as well, and France has started now. But as you've seen there's a lot of countries joining up with the PRS, which is a good thing
right,
because the IPRF does not run a series. There are some IPRF membership countries who run their own series that are not not PRS affiliated, but
right.
going forward now, I think there's the vast majority of the IPRF associates will also be running a PRS series.
Awesome. Well, and that's what I think is really cool is that the IPRF and the PRS, being totally separate entities, but working so well together to essentially, come towards the same thing. And
Hmm.
I know that hasn't always happened in the past, or, it's just nice to see that it's working so well and that the people at the top, well, you and Ken Wheeler and everyone else involved are working towards the same goal.
Yeah, no, it's good having a good relationship with Ken and also working with Runar there. So me and Ken, we talk probably multiple times a week over the phone, and
Mhm.
there's always talks about how because the IPRF and the PRS has they're all, I would say we shoot the sport in the same way, but there are slightly differences in rules that we're constantly like, okay, so how do we merge this thing into having like to 99% the same set of rules?
Yeah,
And different divisions and things like that. So it's at the end of the road, I think at least for me, the optimal goal would be for the PRS and IPRF to have the same set of rules, and for the PRS to be like this serious and just based on individual skill, like based around the individual. And the IPRF having more of like the nations based
yeah,
thing. Obviously, you'll still be an individual champion within your division, but the focus is more of a like you represent your country and your
yeah,
colors.
yeah. No, I love it. I think it's really awesome. So with okay, so you said there's 30 countries now,
Yeah, something like that. I
or
don't
close
have the
to
exact number in the head. Yeah, look, I didn't do too well in math. As I
it.
said, I'm a welder, but not anymore. So I probably should take a math class or something.
Okay, so with there being so many countries, I can only imagine how difficult it is to coordinate that many different countries. I mean, with different languages, different laws, different time zones, just trying to talk to people. I mean, what's what are some of the difficulties trying to work with people all over the world to coordinate this into one big thing?
So time zones is one thing for sure. I would say the majority of all discussions is between Europe and the US. So far, it's the two most active continents on this, and Greg is doing a fantastic job representing the US. He's a even though he doesn't give himself enough credit, he is a
Yeah,
very he's very good with handling people and talking and getting very like I don't know, I don't like to say this, but he gives very intelligent opinions. Doesn't add up to being a corn farmer from Arkansas, I guess, but
yeah, I 100%.
so no, he's really great working with like that. So, but I don't know. There's also a difference in culture between people on how you. It's I wouldn't say it's difficult, but sometimes it's and also there's language barriers involved as well. I would we all communicate in English, and some of the countries are you can look at maps and there's percentages on how many of the populations are fully proficient in English, and you can look at certain countries that are down in the 15 to 20%, and it's sometimes it's a little bit difficult to communicate that way. There's misinterpretations back and forth, and sometimes you present a case of something that we would like to change, and then someone opposes it, and then you kind of read and it's like, why are they opposing it? And it's like, I don't think they really understood what we're saying. And then you have to go back and explain it and everything. But then, like everyone, we all are working towards the same goal, which is good
Mhm.
to know, so that you know that there's no one working against the whole idea of it. It's yeah, I would say yeah, it's not difficult like that, but it's just it's a fully voluntary organization who doesn't gonna start charging membership fees like 150 euros per country, not per shooter or anything, just to like finance the website and things like that. But
Right.
we're all putting down all our time we put into this is totally voluntary and not paid. So therefore, you can't expect someone to put in hours and hours of work every week to do something about this, and you can be happy if they can spend like 30 minutes in it,
Hmm.
and you just have to like appreciate that the whatever time they put into it and just be happy that they're doing it.
Right. Do you see it getting to a point where there are full-time paid positions within the organization, or do you think it would ever require that?
I mean, if you look at it down the road, most gigantic sporting federations have a paid position. I don't think we'll be there anytime soon, or at least not while I'm in here, or any. Well, probably not the next guy either. But um, eventually, someone will have to get compensated in some way because there's a lot of hours into it if you're at the top. Like Greg does a lot, obviously, by arranging the world championships and I put in a lot of hours into it, and there's others guys putting in a lot of hours into it. And somewhere it's kind of not long term sustainable to do that. You're going to have certain individuals wanting to put in the work, but long term, someone's going to have to get compensated, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Um, do y'all have, is there a lot left to get lined out for the match this year?
No, I think it's pretty like I don't know. I'm very confident that everything will be good. Greg's doing a great job. I'm very confident with the match director as well. I mean, Beamer's got a great track record, and
Right.
I mean, it was when we were choosing the match director. I was, there wasn't that much discussion until like I said that to him. Like I would love for us to have Beamer run this match, and Greg totally agreed, and we went that way.
Yeah.
And then Ken
I think
volunteered
it's a
to
good
help
call.
out as well. So
I am is Greg, because it's in the US, is Greg the primary guy that's getting stuff together for the match, or are you still heavily involved as well?
I'm not that involved into the everyday work around putting on the match.
Okay.
That's totally like I would say to the majority of the work is up to the organizing nation. Same with it was with
Okay.
France. Philippe and the guys did a heck of a job in short time, and it was all down to the French who did that. Same with the 22 World Championships in Italy. The two twos were I think it was like August or September last year. Sorry
Yeah.
for not like knowing the exact date. It's all a big mess up in the brain. But so the Italians did a fantastic job there as well, putting on a very even course of fire. There were even some complaints. There's like, oh, the stages are too similar. And I'm like, well, there's different props and the targets are at different ranges. But yeah, like if you want it to be completely fair, everything needs to be kind of similar. Like you have to shoot out of a solid prop. You have to shoot at a certain size target at a certain range. Like you
Right.
cannot be like all gimmicky and shit.
Right.
If you want a true championship, like it has to be, even and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You can't leave luck into it.
No, you can't leave. Like it has to be like you can't be like the wind switch there and there. Then you have two stages that are extremely long range, and then if you have no wind in the morning, you're extremely lucky, and in the afternoon you're screwed.
Right.
So anything like that, like any match that like Beamer would put on, pretty much. So that hence why he's the match director.
Yeah. Um, is there much I guess what's the best way to put this? Is are there many differences in coordinating center fire championship versus the rim fire championships?
I don't know. The only thing was like it's very easy now working with the US because your guys are you're way ahead of the curve compared to the rest of the world.
And, and,
Italy
and
and
how
Italy
so?
is needed more assistance with how to set up a fair course of fire.
Okay.
There was some dude, I don't remember who it was. It was a 2-2 director out of the US who helped us a little bit with, double checking the course of fire. I don't remember the name of the individual. Just to make sure it's fair, and they sent some pictures over of the props, so that it was a lot. We were more heavily involved with with setting up the 2-2 match in Italy than we are with the US match. Like we just, we know you guys will do it really good and you have the experience and we don't need to put in as much work into it.
Gotcha. Or is it easier internationally for competitors to own rimfire rifles than centerfire rifles?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's easier. Mostly, I would say it's easier for them to arrange matches. If you look at like the Czech Republic and other places, it's easier for them to arrange a 2-2 match than there is center fire. But I wouldn't say it's easier for them to own a 2-2 rifle compared to a center fire. It's just the availability of matches can be higher because of it's easier to arrange.
Yeah. Well, we have that same here. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it is a lot easier to find somewhere that you can shoot 200 yards than it is somewhere you can shoot 1,000 yards.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay. So where do you where do you see the IPRF and this sport going? Like, if long term and or what are your goals of where you want this to head?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. I would like for it to be like it would be a smooth schedule with world championships. It's actually recognized like very like up into the big old sports organization. I mean, the IPRF itself can and should be approved by bigger organizations upwards. There are different tiers of that, but we don't have to go into detail. But just to have the fluent flow of world championships, a good membership basis with countries, and just working towards helping those countries who need our help. I mean, we're not actively seeking out countries who have issues with precision rifle. I mean, they have to approach us and ask us for assistance, and then we help. I mean, we're not mind readers. So those who approach us and need assistance with things, we're there for them. And we'll also try to assist them in giving legitimacy to their sport, that like the thing that we all love doing. And in countries we have succeeded and made a huge difference, and that's the things that you have to focus on to keep on pushing. The days when you feel like, oh shit, this is just way too much work, why am I doing this? And then you look at some country and it's like, well, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So because I know there are other shooting sports that have international championships and stuff like that. I'm not super knowledgeable on them, but I mean, do you know off the top of your head, like, I mean, how many countries some of these other sports have as part of their championship? Or I guess
No,
like
I don't really.
because I don't know how big this could get. Because I mean, we have 30. I mean, do we get another 20 or another 100?
Right now, I probably have another 5 or 6 knocking at the door and asking for the criteria. I've had multiple countries in Africa wanting to know how to set up matches and how to get going with the sport. And I've had a bunch of countries in Southeast Asia reach out. I know that Thailand is doing phenomenally well with precision rifle. I'm pretty sure they're
Really?
not allowed to. Yeah. Oh my God, their stuff is. You can look up. I think there's like a shooting sports Thailand Facebook webpage or something, and you look at their stuff, and they're like way ahead of their curve. And like the short amount of time they've been doing it, they've been growing crazy fast. And you look at the guys, and they have all the right gear. The only thing that is ammunition there is you're not allowed to reload ammo, and so they're all shooting 308 because everything else is just stupidly expensive. I mean, if you look at something in the U.S. and it's like, and you look at Europe, there's usually a 50 to 100% up, like more price in Europe. So it's like something that's $1 in the US is easily two in Scandinavia. And then you look
Really?
at Thailand and all of a sudden it's four.
Oh,
So an AI ATX in Thailand is probably twice the cost as in US.
really?
Yeah, so everything's there over there is very expensive and it's also difficult to get a hold of. So all the Thai people, all the Thai competitors are shooting 308 because of availability of ammunition pretty much. But if you look at their rigs, I mean, they got MPA chassis, Defiance actions, they got everything from C comps to night forces to tangents. I mean, they're
Really?
yeah. Oh my God, it's
That's
really
badass.
cool.
I
And
never would have thought. I never would have guessed that.
no, they're also heavily involved with shooting. I think they've recently signed a partnership with the local like the Thai Special Forces to for them to use their ranges. It's really cool. I mean, they're shooting out in the archipelago in Thailand outside these really nice like vacation resort places, and it's just so beautiful. It's insane. That's one of the bucket list things to do is shoot a match in Thailand.
Oh, that would be sick.
Oh yeah, no,
Oh,
it's wicked. They're putting in so much work to it. It's really impressive. They're really dedicated.
wow. Okay, that's
You'll see
awesome.
some of them if you go up to Grand Junction. You'll see some of the Thai people. They're coming.
For the World Championship this year?
Yeah, they're showing up with a. I think that at least I think it's like a limited team and an open team, which is 308 and open.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, I'm working. I'm trying to work on a couple things to be there. I would like to RO the match and maybe set up a booth or something like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
I'm probably going to ask you to load my ammo just to be sure nothing gets messed up on the flight over. I mean,
yeah,
flown to the U.S. several times and shot matches, but like going to the worlds and it's like maybe what if the ammo and you're like
right.
it's like that kind of suck because you're not gonna like I'm shooting 6.547. It's not something you just end up to go to a shelf and Shields and in Colorado Springs and hey, you got any of that 6.547 laying around? It's like nope.
Yeah, yeah. You can. We don't shoot that commie shit over here.
Exactly.
That
No,
was
it's
my
good.
first custom rifle ever was 6.547.
Yeah. No, I
Uh,
recently switched to it to be honest. Like the late last year, I went from 6 millimeter to 6.5. I just, I've shot probably 6 or 8 BR barrels and I ended up with a dasher barrel. And then I was like, I'm done with 6 mil. I started looking at where I was losing points and where I was like dead. Like anything with inside of 600, it was just, dead on. I wasn't losing points there because of the cartridge, but outside of that, because usually the terrain in Sweden isn't like dusty or you don't see splashed out well in the terrain. So there's the backdrops on the field matches. It's usually like moss or something. So
mm,
the extra splash you can get when you miss to rip up some moss or you get some more signature in the targets out the distance. That I was like, that's where I'm losing points. So I went up to 6.547.
are you shooting the 135s?
Yeah, I'm shooting the 135 A tips at like the more serious matches. And so when you know that there's some extra long, like the average distance is a little bit further and the targets are a little bit smaller, just nice to have. And I'm not sure how much difference this makes, but it's nice to at least feel that you have a little bit more margin on your side. For everything else, I just do 140 LDMs.
Okay. Yeah.
So
No, I love what we talked. I love the ATIPs.
they're great. They're great. It's also nice when you see. I mean, whenever you shoot a target that's been shot up, and it's like you can see the lead oxidizing, and even if you shoot it with a new, like a normal not ATIP bullet, you still see a little bit brighter part of lead. But if you hit with that ATIP, it's a little bit brighter.
Yeah.
It's nice to know, and you see you sometimes you really just see it like that extra. Not sometimes you see the little flash, but uh,
Yeah.
but
I
that
tell you,
extra, yeah. Continue.
uh, shooting Silent Night. Justin brought back Silent Night this past year. Dude, shooting ATIPs is like damn near cheating.
Yeah, no, it's great. I shot an ELR match. We have one every year that goes out at 2 kilometers. And I think first year, I've never had an ELR gun, but so I borrowed a Desert Tech 50 cal and shot factory Hornady on it. That's the original ATIP, and I'll tell you that thing sparks.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of ass behind that one.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was like, it got a massive concussion and was like felt sick for a week after that thing because it had like I don't know, it wasn't the longest barrel and had a muscle brake on it, and I shot like 50 rounds with it.
Yeah, well, and the Desert Techs bring it a little bit closer to you.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. So and I ended up performing horribly, like 14th out of 30 or 40 or something. And so the next year I ended up going and buying a 300 Norma, shooting the 258 tips instead, and crushed it. I crushed all the 375 enablers, 37XC, 33XCs, all those things. Just fucking crushed it. So
That's
it
awesome.
was the funny thing. It was also like everyone been like, "Oh, we're cheering the BC as we go out," because there's not a lot of opportunity to shoot out to those distances in
Right.
Scandinavia. So everyone's like, "Oh, we're cheering our BC," and they're like, "We have this velocity," and I'm like, it's like I know how fast they're going, and I'm trusting the 4DOF Kestrel, and it was within a tenth of a mil at 2 kilometers.
Yep.
And
It's
I was
great.
like, "Yeah, it's great."
I, I did the same thing. I went and shot the 9.4 CLR match here last year, and I took a 300 Norma with the 250 A tips. And day one was the worst day of a match I've ever had. My my muzzle brake came loose, my scope came loose, my scope base came loose, and then my barrel came loose. And they don't have a zero board. And so I was like, I'd find something, adjust it, fix it, and then I'd have to adjust my zero based on what my dope was calling for on targets at like 1,300 yards, and then work it back in. And then something else would come loose. But anyways, so and I did okay day one, and I finally got everything fixed and torqued and made sure it was good. And I think I moved up like 80 spots day two,
Oh shit.
and I was so frustrated. I ran my like just per like hit percentage for day two, and if I would have had that on day one, I would have won the match. And I was like, so I'm coming back for vengeance for
Oh yeah, no, I was supposed to
this
shoot
year.
one of those matches, but the knife for ZLR, I'd planned it along. I think it was for not sure. I think it was for 2020. I had it planned out. Obviously, COVID and everything, but I was supposed to borrow a gun from Scott Satterley for the ELR, and I was going to bring my normal the 6 mil at the time to shoot. I don't remember. I think it was a match on. It was pretty close to the Grand Junction area. I don't know, remember what it was called, but it wasn't that match. If you recall, if there's any up there in Colorado. I think it was.
The
I don't
EL,
remember what it was called. There's like no, it's a normal PRS match, and then I was supposed to travel to the ELR match, but well, COVID.
I don't know, but yeah. Anyways, what made me think of that was I was running. I got my velocity, ran the applied ballistics CDM, uh, entered it in, and then applied ballistics had their big fancy Doppler deal, and got my PDM that night, and it was a tenth difference at 2150.
Yeah, so it's the same. Like it's
It's
a
unbelievable.
yeah, no, it's unbelievable. Especially for like looking at it a few years back, we were shooting that match. I think it was 2 years ago now. Yeah, no, 20, yeah, 2 years, 2022, and then summer. Like I'd chronographed it at home, and we didn't have a chronograph at the range, and it was still, I was shooting with the Vitavori 568. That was stupidly temperature stable, and it was just, I don't know, luck or whatever. It was dead on at 2K, so I was pretty happy with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I tell people like, especially guys, um, especially new guys, but anyone, if if your Kestrel has a CDM in it, like it's just the easy button.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's insane. The amount of work and how they've tweaked those things is just
Oh yeah, definitely. Also, if you do the math and you go into it, it's also an interesting discussion with CDMs and BCs, and people will be like, "Oh, this is a 278, and this is a 282," and then you look at what that little difference in BC does, and it's like Jesus, like it's for a PRS match. What are you talking about? Like if you go in really and true up the BC, and it's like how much you need to change to make it a difference at 800. And that opens eyes when you explain that to people, and they go into your Kestrel and they edit it, and it's like, but I've edited four clicks now, and it hadn't made any difference. Like, yeah, well, it doesn't.
yeah. I trued my 105 G7 BC to 27853, and it lined up.
Yeah, exactly. It lined up. Wonder. Like
Yeah.
I changed it from a 278 2. Really? Oh, it's hilarious. We can talk about this all day. It's funny.
Well, so that's
Like I've gotten to the point of like when I won last year wasn't my best competitive year. I think I had like two podiums and a couple of no two or three podiums and a couple of like four, five, sixes. But the year before that, 22 was my year for sure. I had a lot of wins then, but I won the national championship in 22, not 2022, not 22 LR. And it was like I had no time. I just gotten back from work and everything. I just put everything into Dylan and I used a Dylan powder hopper and everything. Just cranked out all the ammo and I won the national championships. And people, I was like, shit, really? Does this really? It's like, how much does this matter? How much does it really matter at the like on a if you don't have a match that's like you have really small targets at really long distances? Because I think that match was with like 700 tops, and like a couple of stages at 700 was the longest. And I started looking into it and I started comparing what like factory Hornady ammunition was. And I was like, Jesus Christ, why didn't I just not buy all my reloading gear and just buy factory instead? It's like the stupid amounts of like 140 ELDMs and a Creedmoor I could have gotten like the Hornady match instead of buying like a Dillon 650 with all the shit like the everything. Got the auto trickler, got an amp annealer with the amp mate, and like all this stuff. And it's like all the time, and I'm like, why?
yeah, it's man, it's a really interesting dynamic. Or yeah, because the like our sport, our targets are not the smallest targets. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And but like so when I first started competing, I did very similar things. My I knew how to load better, but I was like, ah, I'm just gonna crank ammo out and go, and then just kind of as I got more serious into it, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then lo and behold, then it turns into it's like F class loading, and it's just
I
I
mean,
don't
don't
know.
get me wrong. It's not a bad thing to have ammo. Like I'm like I still for all the important matches, I anneal everything. I use the auto
Oh no,
trickler. I use an arbor press to seat all the bullets, and I'm really really anal about it. But because I know that someday I'm going to be there on second place or third place or whatever, and it's going to be 1 point up there, and it's going to be that bullet who just hit a little bit low and didn't hit like went under the
right.
target. And I'm like, that
Well,
was the powder hopper.
and that's where I can completely see it both sides of things. I mean, if you're like if you're coming out and having a good time, it doesn't matter. It's I guess where it came like for me personally, it came down to like I want to know that I missed because of something I
Oh yeah, for sure.
did. And but it's I think it's interesting because some people, I mean, you talk to like Morgan. I listened to one of his episodes and he points all of his bullets.
Oh yeah, no, that's like I'm way past that. I'm so I don't clean my brass. Like some guys was like, oh, which brass is Marcus's? Oh, it's the dirty brass.
Yeah, and so
Like
that's what I think is interesting. Everyone has their own spin on what's important and what's not, and I don't know. I love picking people's brains because everyone has a different opinion.
oh yeah, no, it's for
I
sure.
went to one match, and I don't want to. I'm not making fun of him. I just think it was I had never seen it before. But I looked down and all of his brass was like pink from like the shoulder up, like the metal. It wasn't like highlighter. And I was like, dude, what is up with your brass? And he's like, oh well, I ultrasonic clean it, and then when I wipe it down, and I'll rinse it off and clean it. But then when I anneal it, it just the chemical residue with the heat turns it pink.
oh wow,
And I was like,
like the cleaning compound he has in the ultrasonic cleaner.
mm-hmm.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean,
Yeah. But then in my mind, I'm like, dude, you couldn't pay me to ultrasonic clean my brass like that. It's just
Yeah, no. I like when my brass start looking like steel cased Russian 762. That's when I put it. That's about when I put it into the tumbler with some corn cob.
yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
so, like I don't know if you ever met Clay Kanabe out of Texas. He's super good dude, and we've ended up splitting Airbnbs with a bunch of guys a few times, and the night before the match, a bunch of guys are sitting there uh marking the rims of their cases with Sharpies and stuff like that, and he'll hold it walk by with a beer or something like, "You guys are dumb. I'll find my brass because it's the cleanest brass out," and he tumbles it for like 30 hours, and so it's just like
Oh shit.
mirror finish.
No, no, I'm not. I'm not
It
doing that.
it
I mean,
works.
I just want to put in one thing about though about running everything through a Dylan and how it's like all that. Like, I had a very interesting experience last year at the Norwegian finale. Their championship finale,
Yeah.
and the same thing there. I had too much to do, and it's like I'm just going to crank the Dylan and just you run the 6547 into Dylan and just load it up. And I had like 3 rounds that didn't have any powder in them, so just the primer went poof. Like I don't run a lot of neck tension, but it's like I think it's like three thou neck tension.
Yeah.
So the bullet like it didn't leave the brass, so it's just like ejected it, put a new one in, and continued shooting. That happened three
Oh,
times, and
that's at least
so
good.
like so you just rack it or rack it on the other round and shoot it because it's not a spent case. You can just shoot it. But one of the stages it went like I was just going like bang left target, bang right target, bang left target. And then I went back to the right target and I just started like poof, and I'm like that that went bang, but like in a 22 kind of way. And I look at the spotter and he's like that went short, like really short, and that you this target was at like 360 yards, and he's like it hit the ground halfway, and I'm like, are you sure? It's like, yeah, I saw it hit the ground halfway, and I'm like, open it up, spent casing out. And I was like, put in a new one. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, what if it's in the barrel? And it's like, are you sure? And it's like, yeah, I'm 100% sure. It's like, are you really sure? I got this on film. We're like having like, there's like the entire squad had timed out on that stage, and I was like spending 15 seconds arguing with the RO if he really saw it. And then before it's like I think it was my last round or something. I just turned out and went to the left target, and I just like, oh Jesus Christ, I hope he's right. And just bang, and went off and hit the target. I was like,
I
so
didn't
that
die.
I didn't die. So it was one of those moments like, yeah, this is um I should probably put in one of those little things that measure the powder on the Dylan, like so make sure you have powder in the case.
Yeah. Well, I was at the match in Oklahoma last year, uh, or I was in a spot where Bushman had a squib in his, and I'm I don't know if I would have the he stopped. I don't know if I would like have the brain power in the middle of a stage, be like, "Oh yeah, you can stop." But it was his very first round, and he closed the ball, pulled the trigger, and his left the case, and it was stuck in the barrel. And he heard it and opened it and looked, and he's like, "Well, I'm I'm gonna zero this stage." And I was like,
How do you actually get a bullet that's stuck in the barrel out? Like I've never done it before, but it's like it has to be stuck there with quite a significant amount of force.
so they make things that you can like put on the end of a like a one piece rod that's designed for that. And you just hammer
Like,
it out.
do you hammer it out in the like backwards or forward?
I think it just I would assume back towards the breech, because they're generally not going to go very far. I
Hmm.
guess depending on what happened, but his I think they just had a cleaning rod and just
Yeah, just whatever weighs the closest, right?
and got it out, and he had it fixed within a couple minutes. Uh, but then I was the next match I was at with, and one of our buddies had the same thing happen what you did. It was click, and he ran the bolt, and Bush was like, "Check that, does that have a bullet in it?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're But I was like, at
No,
least
it
she's
was
looking out for him.
yeah, no. If I would have had half a brain, I wouldn't probably not have shot that last round. But I was like, I should probably have like in hindsight, I should have just pulled the bolt out and just called it quits until I inspected the bore. But
Well,
I don't
and
know.
that's why I say I know you shouldn't do that, but I don't know if I have the mental strength to be like, in the middle of a stage be like, nah, but I'd be like, it's fine, and then
Yeah,
I'm not
and then
around
all of a
anymore.
sudden you have to call Tate and get a new action and a new face.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know if it would go bang like that though. I'm not like would
I don't know. I
they're
don't
built tough.
I don't particularly want to find out, but
Uh,
um,
we can ask Tate if you want to lodge a bullet in there and see if it holds up. Like,
yeah, that'll be the new argument. Oh, impacts suck. They'll blow up if you shoot a squib round.
yeah, well, I think most actions will. They did a test in Sweden for like a long time ago on all common hunting actions, and they welded shut the muzzle and fired around to like really like what if you had 100% obstruction. I think it was like a hunting magazine or something. This was not yesterday done yesterday. I think, and it turned out that the Howa was the only action that didn't detonate.
Really?
Yeah, so they're like it was a lot of different. It was mainly like it was a lot of like yeah, Seikos, Tikas. You had some sours like German actions, and then you have other. I don't remember all the actions, but I remember that the only action. So first they did like they had like some snow in it, and then they had some mud in it, and things like that. The final test was welding it shut, and the only action that didn't explode was the Howa 1500.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
No, and I'm I mean I run an impact and I'm talking shit, but I could see the internet and the internet keyboard warriors are like, oh, did you see an impact blew up? Because they launched a bullet in the barrel and then shot another one. Oh, they suck. You know what I mean?
yeah, probably. We had a guy in Sweden who did. There's so many stories around stuff that like you're not supposed to do. Some guys forgetting cleaning rods in their guns and shooting, but we had a guy in Sweden who has I think it was like a seven Psalm, and instead of loading it up with like I think it was like VIT 565 or 570, he put like 130 in there, which is for like by accident.
Right.
So that gun obviously only fired once, and I think that bullet is still traveling around the universe. So no, it was he survived. Uh,
Good.
uh, the gun did not explode. However, the lugs were kind of infused with the action.
Oh,
But it's a lot of those things when you start thinking about it. It's I don't know. Just be careful out there. Don't shoot your gun if you had a squib in there.
yes.
Inspect the
Yeah.
barrel. I think that's
Yeah.
what we need to go get at.
We say all this shit to say don't be an idiot.
Yeah, don't be stupid. Don't do
Uh,
like I do. Shoot afterwards without checking the barrel.
yeah. Okay. So, okay. Talking about you shooting, you finished in the top 15 at the World Championship last time.
Oh yeah, no, that was. I learned things from that. I think I went up from like day one. I was like 30th or 40th or something, and or more. It was just horrible because I was trying to, since the organization was so new, I was going to sound like I have a ton of fucking excuses. Like, oh, it was because of this. If I wouldn't have, oh, if it would have, could have, should have, I would have won it if it wasn't been for that. But I was at the same time of the first match, like when we shot, I was, because at the time I was like chairman of the technical committee or like the rules committee and everything. So every time someone had a question, it went to me. Like if someone was arguing about the rules, or like Morgan's coming up, it's like, what about that? And I'm like, oh, shit, trying to explain, trying to talk between the French guys and him. And I was like, Marcus, you're up next. And I'm like, holy shit, was just getting there, loading up my max. Like, what targets am I supposed to shoot? And I was like, I'm not having a particularly good time right now. I'm not talking shit about Morgan. He's just like one of many, many guys who have lots of questions. And for the last day of shooting, I went up to Rob Ramsden at the time. It's like, you're doing this now. I'm not. If anyone asks me questions, I'm going to tell them to fuck off. Like, this is your responsibility now. I need to shoot. And I didn't drop very many rounds on the second day when I was able to focus, but I'm very happy with the 14th place, given the circumstances. I'm like extremely happy.
Yeah. Well, and so I pulled up the scores from the match and looked at so you were in 14th, and then I went and looked at your stage scores. You honestly shot pretty damn good. There were two stages that weren't that great.
Oh yeah,
And
I
I
know which
looked.
ones. It was a lot of Marcus. You're up next. Holy shit.
Yeah, and so I guess the reason I say that is, I mean, and it is what it is. I'm not saying same shit. You know, oh, if you would have done this, you would have won. But like pulling those, like just bringing those two stages to like what you were kind of averaging out the rest of it. I mean, you were in the top like 7 or 8.
I haven't
So
looked into it. I was like, I was just, I haven't looked into it. I just, I know exactly which stages you mean, and I just know running to them, trying to like while running, trying to put rounds into the magazine, just getting there, and trying to figure out what to do. I mean, I had such a great time during that event, and even during the first day when I had like, I was sometimes pissed off about having to do these things, but all I could do was laugh about it. I mean, we put on this event where there's people from all over the world, and I was like, I had like pretty early on, I had to figure out like I just got to look at the bigger picture.
yeah,
Like it's not important what I do or where I finish. The important thing is that this match goes as planned and everyone's happy. And
right.
it turned out pretty well. Everyone was like, I would say the vast majority of everyone's very, very, very happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, that is the general consensus I've heard as well. And honestly, I was saying all that to try and brag on you a little bit. You to what to qualify to go to that match is impressive in and of itself. And then to come shoot with the people that you shot with and still do that good is very impressive. So
Thank you.
mainly congratulations.
I appreciate
But
it. Thank you.
um so Sweden came in second.
Oh yeah, we have some decent shooters, half decent guys.
Yeah. Um what why are y'all so good?
Well, it's difficult to say. I mean, I wouldn't say we started out earlier than anyone else, but I think what we have is a bunch of guys who are very, very, like at least like Norway is catching up now. I would say at their Norwegian finale last year, they really show that they've advanced. But up until like in 22, like in France, you could tell that Sweden was way ahead of the curve of like the curve of rest of Europe, and that mainly is our we have some of our guys are really open minded and really, really paying attention to detail and looking up information. So we spent like for my first PRS match, for example, this is an example of what you can do if you don't have the ability to shoot. Like I signed up for it. It was in 2016. I had like never shot a precision rifle match at all. Like I had, sort of shot it on like I have a barricade on the range, and everyone else was pretty much the same. Like no one had really like there had been some like tactical rifle matches in the past, and I'm not sure if anyone had a game changer at the time, or if I had. I don't think I've purchased mine yet. I think I was a sock full of rice or something, like as was of course tradition at the time.
Right.
Uh, and I ended up fourth place. Just behind some really heavy hitters. And what I did was I spent all my time that I had available because I was working shifts at the factory that ended up quite a far away. That didn't allow me to go to the range for weeks ahead of the match. So what I did was watching all the Connex videos, the Contingency X on YouTube. I was just really looking at YouTube videos and like seeing like, okay, who are the guys that are the top groups? How are they shooting? What are they doing? How are their leg placement? Where are they
Yep.
putting their bag? Where they're putting their hand? Like everything.
Yep.
And I tried to replicate that, like dry firing a little bit at home to just get a kind of an idea of how are guys shooting that have done this for a very long time. And
Okay.
a lot of the other guys in Sweden have done the same thing. They've really just gone through all the material that you can find, just looking at guys like, Morgan, you Clay, you got Orgain, you like all those guys. And like, how are they doing it? Where are they putting their bags? Like, oh, how they're moving around the stage, like all those kind of things. And I think you really have a lot to gain just by looking at how a guy is moving and placing his bag.
I agree.
And that kind of brought us ahead of the curve. And we also put our matches to be like we also looked at matches from the US, and like we wanted the matches to be fair and difficult, but not like not meatball matches and not stupidly difficult. I mean, they were crazy difficult when we all started. Like if the winner had 50% hits, that was like considered standard. And we very quickly moved away from that, which was also a really good thing for the development of the shooters.
Right.
But as from a Scandinavian perspective, I think the Norwegians have way more matches than we
Okay.
do. We only have like four like national matches that are big, 4 or 5. Rest of them are like 300-yard ranges.
Okay.
But they're like there's a handful of guys in Sweden who like are like stupidly dedicated, and that shows.
That's awesome.
And
I just
yeah, so spend more time on YouTube, kids.
be honest, I've done the same thing. Uh, I think things started clicking for me once that kind of stuff became second nature. Like, you know what I mean? Where you free up the mental capacity to think about the shot versus where you have to step and where you have to put your bag and how to get the rifle where it needs to be and
Yeah, no, for
stuff
sure.
like
It's and other things like everyone in Sweden, we start, including myself, we all started out like there was a 6.555 is the thing. Everyone's shooting it. Like when I started out, phenomenal cartridge. Like if I
that.
could pick a cartridge to run for the rest of my life for hunting and for shooting, it would be it because you can do
Yep.
everything with it. But we all started out there 6.555, running like a 130 at I don't know what meters to 2 feet, but I think it was like 2950 ish. So kind of hot, but that was the thing. Everyone's going to run. You got to go fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was also at the time when people were running like 280, 6.5, 284s in PRS. Like that's I mean, it was a different time.
We've
But
we've learned.
yeah, and then kind of quickly, a lot of guys started switching over to 6 mils. Like I built my first 6 mil in 2017 or something, 16, 17 or 18. I built on a Tika Action with a KRG chassis. I shot like 6 barrels on that one. And there's a lot of other guys switching, like not sticking with the old stuff and just really wanting to advance. And 6 mils has been the thing ever since. And now you start seeing, with including myself, people are going back to the 6.5s, but not running slower bullets fast, but running heavy, slow and heavy.
Hmm.
And I think that the curve, like if you look at it, like so that back in the day, like Sweden, Scandinavia in general was, you can say it was a certain amount of time behind the US in development. If you look at like cartridge selection, chassis, optics, bags, the trends were like I would say like a year and a half or 2 behind. Now we're on like with the world championships and everything, this whole sport growing, everyone is more on par with what the latest like trends are of what's working. You're all like the US are pioneering, like looking at you're driving the trends, but everyone has just realized instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we're just going to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So like 25 calibers starting to become a thing in the US.
Yep.
I mean, there's gunsmiths in Sweden who have 25 caliber blanks on the shelf now. And there's like 25 caliber bullets. Not that anyone
Yeah.
has actively started doing it yet, because I don't think anyone has really wanted to go past it. I'm gonna go there eventually, but instead people started going back to the 6.5s because they're seeing that like the trend is not like you're not free recoiling anymore. You're
Right.
not. It's not run fast, run and gun kind of stages with big targets and lots of shots. It's more like precision of solid props on longer ranges. So that's where you benefit from running like a heavier high BC bullet.
Yeah,
So I think the like the whole trend with like both the PRS and IPRF, like the reach of the what's actually working has like it goes faster across the world,
that's awesome.
if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Um, so what I know the last championship match went pretty well, and I think this one coming up will do pretty well. Is it what would you like to see from as I guess your position within the IPRF and just as a shooter? What would you like to see out of the match coming up in September?
You're gonna have to like ask that question a little bit more specific, like out of the match.
How would you like to see? Hmm, let me see if I can narrow this down. What are your goals for the match in September in relation to uh, the IPRF?
So IPRF wise, I'm not. I would love for it to be just a really fair and square match, which I know that Beamer will put on. We requested a field style match, hence Cameo and Beamer.
Yeah, that'll be
And
pretty.
yeah, it's like it's the two safest bets you can get, like pretty much. We're actually looking at Box Canyon as well, but then you're also looking at so the little bit of the thing is that it's supposed to be a destination. You could bring your family, you shoot, you're supposed to have a good time. It's not just about who's the best shooter, even though that's a big thing. Everyone's going for an experience,
Right.
and I mean,
Medicine
Box
Lodge
Canyon is
maybe isn't that?
yeah, Medicine Lodge isn't that cool of a destination to bring your wife and kids. I mean, I like the range. Box Canyon was epic.
Oh, the
Uh,
range is unbelievable. But
yeah, but Medicine Lodge is like I know Wichita is kind of far away, and it's not that fantastic.
yeah,
So Cameo, you got Grand Junction, you got Colorado, you got the national parks. It's in general it's a beautiful area around it as well,
yeah,
and there's things to do. So I think that would be good. No, I would just be happy like the fair match, everyone just having a good time, kind of a relaxed match flow. Good food, just hanging out, meeting people you like. It's as I said, it's more of it's supposed to be like a destination and an experience more than just a match.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I love it.
So,
Do
and
you
for
do?
myself, I'd love to be like a top 20. I'd be happy with that. Like every time I've shot in the US, my goal has been to be top 20. Uh, Cold Canyon match last year, or in 2022, I was 19th place. Before that, I've shot up in Montana. I was like 21st or something. And I like realistically, like if I'm a top 20, I'm gonna be happy at the Worlds again because there's some really good guys who put in a stupid amount of work, and I haven't. I've been told like, yeah, my wife and I we had a kid, our firstborn son in August last year, so
Oh,
that's taking up
congrats.
a lot of time. Thank you. And so it's kind of you get a little bit kind of a different focus on life, and IPRF is taking up a lot of time. I'm gonna try to shoot as many matches and practice as much as I can, but I mean I got to be realistic.
Right. I mean, families, everything.
Yeah, it's like you got to put that ahead of things. And previously, it's been like you can tell your wife like I'm gonna be gone for the weekend. We have 5 days of the week for ourselves, and it kind of doesn't work like that when you have a kid. I've noticed.
Yeah, I understand that. Do we have a location for the 2026 championship?
No, not yet. Usually, that's voted on after the worlds. We have
Okay.
different so usually we get so it's not more than a 2 year the goal in the long run would be to have at least so that like 4 years in advance where you're supposed to be. We're not there as an organization yet where we can do that. We're just about now finalizing the applications for the 20 for the rimfire world championship in late 25. and
Okay.
so we have a couple of countries are interested in that. So we're going to like break it down and then have a big vote on which one is going to get it. And it's suboptimal. It's supposed to be done after a world championship, but we just, we didn't have the time, or the countries didn't have the time to prepare a solid application, because to have a range ready with everything sorted out, pretty much like the 50% sorted out like 2 years in advance, it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially like looking at it, so you don't want to run it. If you run it in the US, you could tell right now, oh, we're going to shoot there, it's going to be fine. But we don't want, like, the whole thing, we want it to be more of an international thing. So we wanted to shift a little bit between the continents. Like
Yeah.
eventually, as we talked about Thailand, I would love for us to have a match in Thailand eventually.
Oh, that would be
But
so
like,
sick.
it would be so sweet. I mean, it would be sick. And we wanted like go between the continents a little bit. And some places just need more time planning and to be able to secure a range to do it.
Yeah, that's understandable. Okay.
So
So,
eventually we'll probably be way more ahead of time and where we're going to be, but not right now. We're still a fairly young organization.
right. Okay. So can you walk us through your rifle setup?
So I'm running Impact Foundation, Hawkins bottom metal, Bartlam barrel 6547, and I'm running Hawkins scope mounts and a zero compromise 527, 3x reticle, shooting Lapua brass, Hornady bullets, and a bit of ori powder.
Okay. What brake and bipod
Oh,
are
ace
you in?
break, ace break, ace break, and I switch between a Harris and a Skypod depending on what type of match it is.
Okay.
And I'm running the Swedish bag, the Drenger bag, and sometimes I'm also having sometimes I run the Weebat as well. It's a little bit, I can't, it depends on the match. Like the Drenger
Okay.
bag is a really good like square range type. It's good as well for a field match, but I feel like if you go to 100% like field match with a lot of sticks and stones, you shoot off rocks and logs and everything. I feel like the Weebat has kind of an edge to it. So I don't know. You should
Okay.
probably stick to just one bag, but I mean, I don't know. I haven't been able to figure it out yet.
Okay.
Maybe when I grow
But
up.
I think it's interesting. So when I talked to Seppo, he is switching to a foundation as well. He was running a Lone Peak, but also running a Zico. Um, but I think it's interesting to check. I mean, like we were saying, the trends across the world are all kind of coming to the same thing. But like when I met a bunch of the guys at the finale uh, from Europe, I think all of them were running a chassis.
It
And
depends on
so,
where you're at, where you live. Like there's so foundation stocks have, I brought them in through a friend of my help of a friend of mine when I built my rifle in 2020. And there's been like a 30, 40 something rifles built in Sweden with foundation stocks. So if you look at Sweden, you have a lot of foundations. But if you look at Norway, they're barely like a handful max. And if you look at the other countries, it's the same thing. Because usually this is a little bit of a problem in the countries where the sport is developing, is there's usually a small number of individuals who are running a shop that's catered to this community. And they are usually just bringing in the stuff that they like. And if they're a chassis guy, they're bringing in chassis.
okay.
And they're talking to everyone. It's like, oh, I love chassis. I do this and do that. And for Sweden, like we brought in the foundations and people started trying them out. And they're like, this is really good. This suits me much better than a chassis. Some people will like the chassis better than a foundation. And it's personal preference. But I think the availability of foundation stocks have gotten better. You have Edgar Brothers in the UK who distribute them in the UK now, a distribution company. We have them in Sweden through one of our gunsmiths. And I think Seppo's buddy Moritz sells them as well. So they're becoming more and more available. And the more people try them, the more you're just like, this is what I've been looking for. But
Gotcha.
chassis have historically been more popular than stocks in Europe, mainly because of availability.
Gotcha. And that was one of
And
the
it
things I was wondering.
Yeah, no, MDT has always been very, very present on the European market
okay.
with like the ACC's elite and everything. So that's one of the reasons that chassis are like very common. That's where everyone started. There was not very many stocks available. If you wanted a Macmillan, it will take you a year's lead time, and you know it would be a jump through all the hoops of getting it because there was semi-custom styled. Like everyone's running Tikas, they weren't like So chassis, that's the reason why I would say. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. I
Long
mean,
answer.
yeah, no, I mean that's the deal. Is like I didn't see a Macmillan or a Manners or a Foundation or anything. Uh, I mean, it was all MDT and MPA, everything.
Mm.
So
No, they have very good. MDT has a very good distribution channel set up and have had for many years, and that's
yeah.
why they're very common. It's a good chassis. I really like the new ACC
Oh yeah,
Elite.
they're pretty slick.
It's just not a foundation.
I when I was talking, um, I did a episode with BJ from Without Warning earlier. Uh, I think once you get to a certain level of quality, like a Foundation or an ACC or MPA, like they're all phenomenal. Just what do you like? You know?
Exactly. No, it's the same thing with me. So we have a lot of the T and B brakes in Sweden. Some guys brought them in. I wouldn't say there's like by number a lot of them, but there's a lot of the top dudes running that brake, and I can't do it because I like joke all you want about concussion and everything. If I shoot like a heavily angled brake like that, Monday morning when I was supposed to work, I feel like dog shit.
Yeah, no, it's a very real thing.
I have such a headache going in, like it's starting going into day 2 on Sunday, shooting through Sunday. Man, I'm not a happy camper on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, I no, I I think the TMB is the most effective brake on the
Oh, for
market.
sure. Oh my
But
god, it's so effective. It's so effective. It's ridiculous. But
and
I can't handle the concussion.
there's new stuff coming out as well.
Oh, wicked. No,
And
that's just yeah. No, it's just ace break all the way for me. It's just it
but
removes as much recoil as I need with the ports upwards. It kind of keeps me. I don't know if it. I'm not. I haven't done. I haven't majored in muscle brakes, but
right,
like it feels good to shoot, and I can shoot it for 2 days without getting any fatigue,
yeah.
which has
But
made
that's
a
what
difference for me.
we me and him both agreed. Uh, I think the Ace brake is probably the best option for guys that are sensitive to concussion from muzzle brakes.
Oh yeah.
It, I don't think it's as effective of a brake, but I think it does exactly what they designed it to do.
Oh
Quite
yeah.
well.
No, it's exactly what they did. Made it for. Like, I mean, I was struggling before I got one, so I shot it. This was in 2022 when I shot the Coal Canyon match, and I borrowed a rifle from Andy Hawkins, and it was a 6 BRA with an ace brake, and on the way back from the match back to his place in Colorado, I just I think it was his brake. No, it was his a guy who worked for him at the time. I should remember his name, but that's not important. He's a really nice guy, gunsmith these days. And I was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna borrow this one for you indefinitely." and and I kind of screwed off his barrel, and he looked at Andy, and it's like, "I'll get you a new one." So I took it home and rethreaded it to M18 and put it on my gun, and I haven't looked back since. It's just like it's made all the difference for me.
Good. Okay, and so uh to change gears a little bit, you're working at Zico now,
Yeah.
and uh so I'm working on getting a couple of the Zico guys hopefully on the show to kind of dive deeper into the optics and stuff like that. But you've been shooting one for a bit, correct?
4 years now. I started out so I'm jokingly all back and forth about being a welder and a machinist and everything. So that was I went to trade school and did that, and then I ended up being like machine operator, and then I did 4 years as a loader operator in a scrap yard, and started a small company that does it's still active. I do a lot of precision rifle training, and
Okay.
I did that to kind of finance my little addiction called precision rifle because I couldn't afford it with the operator pay. And I also started importing stuff back and forth and everything, and then I just kind of got tired of the job, and there was an opening at a distribution company uh, who did a lot of they did a lot of optics, like they had Vortex, Zero Compromise, Night Force, scope rings, Eberly stock, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm just like, I've never done this before. I just know that I'm good with people,
Mhm.
and it's easy for me to talk to new people. So I was like, I'm like, I know the product, and I mean, what can go wrong? I mean, if I don't like it, I can just apply for a new job as a loader operator. I mean, just drive the loader. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been doing it for years, so it's not hard to get a job in that. And I ended up at that company in early 2020, and at the time I was shooting Schmidt and Bender PM2 with the grid reticle. Really good at the time, I would say. They've kind of got left behind a little bit. They're still really good glass, but I'd never really liked the turrets on them because like for me they're too like the clicks are too close to each other, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I kind of misdialed a lot of it. But anyway, it's a good scope. So going out to this new company, I obviously had to shoot something that they were selling.
Right.
My boss was a little bit clear on that, and I was still like, yeah, was still looking at replacing that Schmidt. And I'd looked at Seco, and I'd looked at Night Forces before, and also the Gen 2 Racer. And I just called up to the office at the time and just had them send me one of each. And I spent a couple of weeks shooting them all, like going
Yeah.
to going to small matches and shooting at the range, taking them out in different light conditions. And it was very early on, very clear which one I was going to go with, and it was the Zero Compromise. And since like I don't know, like February or March or something in 2020, I've been shooting the 527, and then moved to another distribution company. Zero Compromise decided to go with me to that company. We've been working closely for 3 years at the time, and then they decided to like redo their entire business model for Scandinavia or the Nordic countries and do more of a direct distribution to the stores from the factory instead of having a middleman. And well, they figured I was the man for the job, and I
Hell yeah.
happily just said yes. Just where do I sign? Where's the line?
Hell yeah. No, that's awesome. I run the 527 on my rifle, and then I've got a 4 to 20 on my hunting rifle. I'm tempted to put it on my NRL hunter gun.
Oh, 4 to 20 is just phenomenal. I love it. I had it on a hunting rifle for so long.
That is probably my favorite scope I've ever used, the 4 to 20.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know. It's hard to put into words like a tangible thing that makes that because I mean, don't remember the 5 to 27 is phenomenal, but there's something about that little 4 to 20 that is just
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
it's
Like if
it's sick.
I don't know what it is, me neither. It's like I shot when I shot in at the Cold Canyon match. I shot with a 420, and I can't say there was very few stages where I wanted to go past 20, which I rarely do anyway.
Right.
But it's just something with it that it makes it just such a phenomenal all around optic. Like if you're not going 100% like overboard, like 100% for the PRS. Like it's going to be 100% match gun. I'm not going to do anything else with it. I don't think there's a better scope than the 420.
I
Like for
agree.
if you're going to also hunt with it, like if you're going to completely match gun, 527, 840 is great. But like
Right.
if you also want to take it out as a backcountry gun or have that scope for something else as well, 420 is the way. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And and for those that haven't seen it yet, y'all announced I think earlier this week the new 1X reticle is out. Um, and then 10 mil locking and non-locking turrets are
Yeah,
available
no,
on all
we're
the
moving
models.
away. Yeah, we're moving away completely from the 15 mil turrets. They're going to be very scarcely available.
Oh, okay, so everything's moving to 10.
Everything's moving to 10 mil and
I like that.
non-locking and locking. So it's like once the 10 mil was launched, you could definitely see immediately that sales went that way, like hard.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
So it was
And
like
I don't think there's
it
anything wrong
was
with the 15, but I do think the 10 is better.
yeah,
It's
no,
easier.
I still yeah, I still like my like and if you look at it, like the effective range of any cartridge, like even if you go into like a 300 Norma or a 6BR or anything, if you crank it to 10 mil, you're
You're out
probably
there.
already past you're out past the effective range of that cartridge and you're pushing it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
I
you I
agree.
mean I don't know how far you get. I don't remember exactly because I sold the 300. It was just collecting dust, but like 10 mils gets you way out.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's significant.
So I mean,
But
and if you and like 99% of all the shots going to be within of the 10 mil span anyway. So if you need more, just dial another turn. It's not it's I think it's more precise dialing with the 10 mil than the 15. Uh, I'm probably not going to sell and replace my 15 mil because I mean, even though I work at Zero Compromise, they don't hand me scopes for free because they cost money and I get a paycheck.
right, yeah,
I would love for them to give me free scopes, but I don't think that's happening.
yeah. Hold on to that 15 for like 5 years, and you can sell it as like vintage or something like
Or
that.
something like that. Depends
Yeah,
on how
yeah.
everything goes. But yeah, for sure. No, it's so we're moving towards that, and I saw that the One X been released as well. I haven't looked through it yet. I don't think it's actually in any scope that's been sold or produced, or if it's produced, it's on the shelves and the factory in Austria.
Right.
But I'm a big fan of the 3X, and I know there's a lot of dudes in the U.S. who teach classes, multiple organizations who teach classes. They say like you're supposed to dial everything, you don't ever hold, and yada yada yada. And I'm like, man, if you like, I would say 95% of everything you dial for sure,
Right.
but like to say that you should never ever gonna hold. I mean, I know stages I've shot in the US where I like you see guys time out, they're dialing, and I'm like I'm probably gonna hold this, and you shoot like a 9 out of 10, and they're like, oh well, it's like you would have been more accurate. It's like yeah, maybe, but I would have timed out at 6. So
I,
it's like
I'm I'm the
there
same
are
way.
stages where you need it.
I'm the same. I think the 1X is a very I think for a reticle that does not have anything like any kind of Christmas tree, I think it is a very good reticle.
Oh, for sure. Like yeah,
I
very good.
I personally, because and I've thought about it because you hear this so over and over like oh ditch the Christmas tree, ditch it, and da, 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 da. I can't bring myself to do it, and in the way I kind of look at it is you talk to anybody that is truly competitive in this and is in it to for points and championships, and everyone has thought through every possible scenario. You have backup bipods and different bags, and if I'm going to do this, it's this. Like, well, why would you not have a reticle that would also allow you forgiveness for that specific random scenario that may come up that's
Oh
also
yeah,
not
for
going to
sure.
hinder you because I run the 3X. I can see through the stuff underneath the crosshair
Oh
just
man,
fine.
just fine, just fine. It's I
So
wouldn't
it's
say
just
that
I
I
don't know.
use the yeah, no, I wouldn't say that I use the bottom part. Like I don't like hold down to 5, 6, 7, 8 mils, but
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of where you're supposed to shoot like near far per each position, and then you go to the far target, and it's only like a mil and a half further out, and it's kind of a certain amount of shots. I mean, obviously, if there's a difficult wind or anything, but if your judgment is that that target is of significant size, so that you can hold it, you're saving a couple of seconds per position that you can spend on building a good position. Like if you have 5 positions and you save 2 to 3 seconds per position. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So I don't I think it's a good tool to have in the basket, and I don't think it's necessarily bad to have a Christmas tree. And mostly they're not crowded below the center line so that you can't
Right.
see if you miss or anything.
Right. I mean, I'm personally not a big fan of the trimmer reticles. I know they have their place. Those are too busy for me,
I
but
have a saying about the tremor.
to
Those who don't already know how to use them or what it is don't need it. And those who know what it is and already know how to use it, they don't need advertising. Like that, it doesn't translate very well probably, but that's like how I would say it. Like
no,
if you know what it is and you know how to use it, that's like your application probably demands it. But if
right.
you're going into this sport and you're looking at the reticle and you need to read a book on how to understand it, it's not for you.
Correct.
Like it doesn't, I don't think it really belongs. Its primary application is not this sport. It's
Agreed.
fantastic for hitting, full-sized IPSICs that might be moving,
Correct.
uh, and phenomenal for that. And if you
Yes.
have someone sitting next to you telling us like, "Oh, we got 6.8 mils and it's a 4.5 mile an hour wind," and then you're like, "Oh, that's it," ding, send it.
Yeah. Two leg hunting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
for us, maybe not.
yeah. But well, that's about all I have for you. That was a tremendous amount of information. I appreciate it.
Oh, we could go on further. Like,
I know, and that's the deal. Is I'm sitting here thinking like I have about 10 other questions I would like to ask you, but we've already been on here for a hot minute. So
well, how much? Keep on if you want to keep on. Like I got time. I got another hour. Let's be the Joe Rogan of shooting podcasts.
let's do it. Um, sorry, let me. I'm working through my notes real quick. Okay, so well, you're coming over here? You're coming over to the States a couple of times this year, aren't you?
I've plans to do it. I was kind of looking at going in March. Obviously, work schedule wasn't there. I was trying to looking at April as well, work schedule again. But it looks like if everything adds up, I'll be at the Twisted Barrel.
Nice. Okay.
I think that was like June or July. I'm not exactly sure, but it kind of adds up with the work schedule. So Twisted Barrel will be one of the ones that I plan on going to if it adds up and the wife approves, but she hasn't said no yet. So
Okay. The Twisted Barrel match was awesome last year. They
it
did
was
a
okay. No, I've heard it's supposed to be good, and it also gives me a reason to visit Greg.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Billy Don and Trey, dude, they put so much. It's unbelievable how far that range has come in the short amount of time that they've had it, and they haven't pulled their foot off the gas at all. It
No,
it
it's yeah.
it it is one of the premier shooting places in the country, and it will be tough to beat in the near future, I believe.
No, I just what I had to do was like so I've racked up uh, uh, through like my credit card. I've racked up over a long period of time a lot of airline miles because it's
Yep.
connected to the credit card, and then I got like one of those 50% off travels for points. So
Oh
I
yeah.
could literally I could fly to Chicago for free, or it's not free because it's points that you had spent money to get, but
Right.
whatever. It's like money I would have spent either way. So I'm looking at what's the most cost effective way of me shooting a match. And that would be going to Chicago and traveling with Ken and shooting Twisted Barrel. I was also looking at the Rifleman's Revival. But yeah, as you know, like there's a lot of things that has to add up when you're supposed to travel across the Atlantic.
Right.
And also that the plan is already to go there in September. So, you know,
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
like it's not infinite. Like even though like working for Seco is a very good job, it's not infinite amount of cash.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, That's a good one. I would. It's hot.
Yeah, I heard that. I was like, oh, like
It is very
as you
hot.
said, we met without knowing, or at least I didn't know at the Cold Canyon match, and I was struggling on day two, very much so.
Yeah.
And Andy told me it's like, yeah, Cold Canyon was comfortable, Twist Barrel is not, and I was like, holy shit.
Dude, it's hot and it's humid. Uh, Start hydrating a week out.
A week in advance.
Yeah, I mean, and I was like, dude, I can look at the sun and start sweating. That's just I've always been that way. And dude, I just that whole match, I was just soaked, and I literally couldn't drink enough water. I think day one I had two or three of the like water bottles with hydration packets, and I think I drank
Hmm.
14 bottles of water from
Oh
like
shit.
7 to 1 when we finished, and I still never had to take a leak. It just
No,
which
it gets like that fast. You saw a lot of the in France. It was kind of warm, at
yeah.
least for being like skin, like European, like looking at it from a European point of view. And it was in the middle of it. The military field was like just sand. It wasn't very windy, and it was just heat. Heat was killing us. And you could see the further up north you went with the shooters, the more miserable they were. So you had some guys up from the northern parts of Sweden that were sitting in the shade, looking like they're going to die any second at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they're like having, yeah, you had like towels that you put ice cold water on and put on their head, and they're just panting. It's like, I can't move, I'm dying. And they're like, well, it is pretty warm, but
Yeah.
and they're up
I
from
went
like way above the Arctic Circle.
yeah, I went to the Magnolia Meltdown in Mississippi uh last year, and that's how I was.
Yeah.
I was dying, and dude, I have never seen so much mirage in my
No, Mirage is an interesting thing. Uh, we have shot historically a lot of matches in the winter time. So you had the snow mirage, like from the snow that boils up, and that stuff really lifts. So like the optical illusion of the target being way higher than it is, like a lot.
Yeah.
So it was like I remember I shot pretty good at this match, and it was in Norway, and it was probably in like -20s Fahrenheit in the morning,
Dang.
and it was like 6 feet of snow, and we all had snowshoes walking around the course of fire up on the mountain. And like when you got out the distance and you start seeing it boil, and you're like, well, like it's not because of it's hot. So it's like you look at it and it's like I'm gonna aim like slightly below the target, and it's just dead. It's dead center. So like half would you be like half a mil off or something, 0.6.
And that's I heard below or like low, but you were aiming below the
Oh yeah,
whole
like
target.
below the whole target. It was I think it was
Holy
fairly
shit.
long target, and there's a lot like you were just about on the snow line, and you see it boiling, and it's like I'm just way below because everyone was missing. I'm like, it's like there's some solid shooters who are missing the target. And I'm like, remember listening to some podcast and reading some book or like something, and I was like, yeah, I've heard about this before, and I was like, I'm gonna try to aim low, like really low, and I hit it.
That's so crazy. I mean, I mean, I will say I don't where I'm at in most of the matches I go to, the Mirage isn't too bad. Uh, I've shot in some places that have quite a bit, and I haven't had to deal with that really, but dude, I can't imagine that bad. That's
Hmm.
a whole nother
No,
a whole
it's a different story.
well,
So I have a question for you.
yeah.
So your whole business is you load ammunition, and I know that you helped a lot of the European shooters out for the finale.
Mhm.
Have you gotten any business inquiries for the Worlds?
Yeah, there's been some, and it some of the guys that I loaded for the finale. I mean, kind of, I'll say nothing's really set in stone yet because it's still so far out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, there's been I think because that was my first time to load for international shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and but I think it went well, and so I think the word has spread, and I think it will be pretty good for the World Championships.
No, I'm actually considering of, sending you an email with the specs just because I can fly with enough ammunition for sure. That's not a problem. But I would also like go in there. There's definitely going to be a zero board, and there's going to be a target that's going to be a little bit way out there.
Right,
And let's say I can fly with 230 rounds, and the match is 200. Like
right,
I'm going to put like a 5 or 10 round zeroing and put a few rounds on the long one, and then maybe you need a reshoot, and then perhaps I decide I need to clean my gun, and I need to go back to the zeroing board before shooting day two. And it'd just be nice to have that little extra buffer.
right.
And so it's just like, I talked to a friend of mine this morning about this, and he's like, but it's going to cost you so much money because you already have all the components at home. It's like, yeah, but it's also going to buy me a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's a world
yeah.
championship.
And that's what most of it was. So there were a few guys that they loaded their all of their match ammo and brought it over, and then had me load some, and then they used that for uh the Friday, and went and shot, you know, got used to the props and stuff like that. Then some of them I
Hmm.
loaded their match ammo for, and just kind of depended on what they were doing. There was a couple guys that came over like a week ahead of time and went and shot and trained over here for a while and ordered a bunch of ammo. And so it kind of just depends on.
Really? Like which ones were that?
There's a guy out of oh God, you're gonna make me forget his name. There was a guy out of Spain.
Javier?
Yes, Javier. He came over and met with Greg in Oklahoma, I think 4 days ahead of the match.
Hmm.
Uh, and trained with Greg and shot, and then came up to Kansas.
Yeah. No, I think that I've heard that there's some guys who are looking to do a JTAC class before the weekend before the Worlds.
Oh, okay.
It's just like I talked to, I'm not going to name names or countries or anything, but there's a bunch of guys from a country who's like, yeah, no, we're going to do a JTAC class before the Worlds. We're going to go over early.
That's
And
cool.
I'm like, you motherfucker. Like that. But I mean, if you look at it, like if you're smart about it, if you really want to perform, like it's a good place to, get a
That's
few
a great
reps in
idea.
and get some coaching from some of the absolute best.
Yeah, I mean, the pedigree with amongst that group is, I mean, you can't argue it. And then to have it right before the World Championship and it all be fresh on your mind, I mean,
I think
that's
it's a
not a
great
bad
idea.
plan.
I wish I could do it. I wish I could do it. But no, I don't know. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah,
It is a pretty cool thing to do for sure. So
yeah,
we're
and
looking. So we're also looking forward a little bit to the whole with the Euro PRS in the Europe. So apparently, even if you're a US shooter, you can go over and have one of the European matches count towards your US qualifiers, right?
yep, yep, yeah. So I think that's badass because I think it's bringing both worlds together pretty good. But so with with the business, I go to a lot of matches. I'm trying to be, present and meet more people and stuff like that. But my wife, so like John, like the Truitts, the whole family comes to everything, and it's awesome. But my wife, she runs a couple businesses here in town, and she is super supportive of what I do. She's not a shooter, and coming out into the middle of nowhere for 2 days is not her cup of tea.
No.
And I've offered, I was like, well, why don't come to the match? Just come, drive there with me and I'll go shoot. And then when it's over, we'll hang out. And she's like, you go to BFE, Oklahoma and Kansas, like, there's nothing to do um, if I don't go to the match. And so then I told her about this European thing. And she was like, I will come to a match with you.
That's great. That's really good.
Yeah, and so we were looking. We're not going to be able to do it for the 2024 season, but I am definitely trying to put something together to come over there for the 2025 season. Uh, and I don't know how it's going to kind of depend on how many matches are put on over there, but I for sure want to do one, and I feel very fortunate that I've gotten to know more of you guys over there. So now, like, I would go shoot a match, go hang out with people, and and know people from all these different countries. And I would love to be able to go over there, shoot a match, and do a hunt. Is what I would really like to do.
That's that. I understand that, and there's a lot of people wanting to do that. But here's the thing: there's not a lot of matches during hunting season. Like, if
And that's
any.
the I don't know how if that correlates at all with what
No,
y'all.
it never does. So usually hunting
Okay.
season starts in October and like ends in January.
Okay.
And if there's any matches in that period, they're very rarely out in the field. They're more a square range, small match style because the forest is full of hunters. So you can't really have a match out there safely.
Yeah.
So the most of the good matches are like early in the year. I would say May. I think the best match. Like we have a really good match in Sweden up north, outside of Haparanda. It's not a place where you want to take your family. Like
Outside of
it's
where?
Haparanda. It's on the border with Finland up north.
Okay.
So it's on a military field. I would say that match is on par with a really good 2 day match in the US. However, there's nothing up there. There's literally nothing.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get your wife up there. You're going to have a good time shooting it, but there's fuck all to do there.
Well, and but the thing is, with if we fly to Europe, getting to Europe is the expensive part. You know,
Yeah.
it,
Problem is traveling around with your gun because your permit's only going to be for one country.
yeah. I mean, if I don't know,
You want to know which one you're going to go to? I already know.
leave it with one of y'all or something. What's
No,
up?
no, you're going to go to Viking Trail in Norway, Runar's match.
Yeah.
No, it's like
Okay.
it's scenic. It's really scenic. You go out, start out on the coast on Stavanger, and then you shoot your way closer to Oslo. And like the first day is up on above the tree line, up in the mountains, and you're shooting through a valley. It's like, oh my god, it's so beautiful up there. Like up really up in the mountains. Just like it's in May, and there's still snow. It's like snow covered peaks.
Wow.
And then you go to the next day, and you travel like 4 hours inland, and you go to a really green area. It's like a family property of one of the shooters who has it. It's also very beautiful. It's like in a valley inside the property with a lake in the middle, and you keep you shooting like crossing over the lake. And then the
Oh,
final
that's
day
cool.
is like just a really maxed out square range match. It's not further than like 600 yards, but like it's really fun. And then Norway, the coastline, like the coastal parts, like Norway is just beautiful. It's probably the most beautiful country in Scandinavia.
That's so it's 3 days at three different ranges.
Yeah,
Oh hell yeah. That sounds awesome.
it is awesome. It's a little bit stressful going back because like when you've shot day one, like you had to get in the car and drive for like, I don't know what it is, 3 hours, 4 hours to the next venue. And then you get into the hotel or whatever, wherever you're staying. And then you drive for like 30 minutes to the range in the morning. But it's just, it's great. It's just so good.
Dude, that's cool. I've never done anything like that.
No, it's really really good. Like there's along the coastline there as well. There's a few very nice small towns, and there's not tourist season, so like the hotels are open. You got all the restaurants, but it's not crowded. It's not going to be like warm and all fuzzy, but you're going to be able to have a hoodie on and still be comfortable. Depending on
That's
whether you're from Texas, so you're probably going to have a down jacket on or something.
I'm from the far north part of Texas, where it actually gets cold. Uh, but it's fine. It's all right. I make fun of Texas people. Dude, me and my wife were actually talking. We've got a cold front blowing in, and the lows for like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are it was like I think it was like -2, 0, and 1. And it was just like
That's fairly cold for being Texas.
Yeah, it's not cold like what y'all get, but it's it's that's cold.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. No, it's like the first day of Viking Trail can be like just above freezing because it's so
Mhm.
up in like high up. But other than that, it's just, I think that's probably like if you're bringing your family and you want to see scenic stuff and have like a varying, like it's just really nice around there. Like the Viking Trail is the place to go to.
Gotcha.
Problem
Okay.
there is that it's difficult for y'all to fly in with enough ammunition because it's the 3 day match.
Yeah.
It's the 3 full days, so it has to be sourced in some way. So if you're running like it'd be a good thing to go over with a something that you can buy factory ammo because there's a lot. Hornady is widely available and Lapua as well.
Yeah.
So if you get with a 6 Creedmoor or 6.5 Creedmoor, you'll be good. So
Hmm.
that's
That
one
would
thing
be
to
that would be
consider.
interesting. So okay, so since we're talking about this, what's your I mean, is Norway your favorite country to go shoot a match in Europe?
Man, I haven't traveled. I mean, I've been to Finland, Norway, Sweden. I haven't been like France, and Ireland. I've shot in. Ireland doesn't have any much more matches these days, but it was good at the time. But like, I would say that it kind of depends. Sweden and Norway are probably the countries where you're going to get the best matches. Definitely, hands down.
Okay.
Like you can go to any of the big matches in both countries and you're not going to be disappointed. I haven't gone enough down to Italy and Ireland. They have a few that are really good. Like, but I think still Sweden and Norway are ahead of the curve in Europe when it comes to good matches.
Okay. I I mean I haven't been to any of them. I would those so like Sweden was on my list and the UK just because I met a bunch of the guys from the UK. Dude, and the guys from Ireland that I got to meet, dude, they were so damn funny, dude.
Oh no, they're all. It's like it's in their DNA. They're fucking funny, all of them.
One of them, I, it it took it. I love people with accents, but I am from Texas, and I don't understand them great until I've been around them for a little bit.
Uh,
And uh, Dan Gibbons was when we were at dinner, he was just talking fast, and I was like, I'm like, dude, I need subtitles, man. Like, help me out for a second.
no,
And that guy,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're
he,
saying.
but he was, oh my God, and then so Dan and Joe Pask ended up being in my squad for the finale, and I could just I could listen to them talk for hours. And uh Joe came off of a stage. He did good. He dropped one shot, and it was a tougher stage. We were talking about what he did, and he's like, yeah, this is what I ran, and then that one, I just I had a wank a trigger pull, and I just started laughing, and he's like, what? And I was like, just what you said, and he's like, wanka, and I was like, yeah, dude, I've never heard that in my life, but that is the best description of a shitty trigger pull I've ever heard. God,
No,
it's just
it's good listening to like that's one of the things that I love about traveling to matches and squatting with new people and everything. It's just that you meet so many individuals that have such a positive impact on your shooting experience that it's just
yeah,
it's totally it's just that it makes it more about like traveling to matches for sure, especially like with the Dan and Rory Gibbons. They were at the Viking Trail last year, and I squatted like with them. And there's like, I mean, they're just they're great dudes. They're funny, and then you're talking to them. It's just like it's just great, meeting all these new people from all the different parts of the world, and then it boils down to we're all same semi-retarded people who love guns.
yep, yeah, it's
But no, it's and I get what you're saying with the Irish. When you should talk, well, you should listen into when two of the Irish start mouthing off against each other. It's that if something is unrecognizable.
yeah, it's fun, and the what cracked me up is in we were in Medicine Lodge, Kansas, this little tiny BFE town in the middle of nowhere that
You have to explain what does BFE mean?
bumfuck Egypt,
Never
middle of
heard it
nowhere.
before. No,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
no, I never heard of that acronym.
just middle of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And but then and I called. We did it at that Mexican food restaurant, and I called ahead and I was like, "Hey, we got a bunch of people coming. Just give a heads up." And then we had people from all over the world, and it was just that was probably my favorite part of the finale was that dinner. It just I think we had about 40 people show up and probably 8 countries, and we're all in random part of Kansas eating Mexican food. I mean, just, where
Yeah,
else
no,
does that
I
happen?
get it. I would have loved to been there, but I just got in we drove there the next day, so on
Yeah.
the Friday. So, but it's no, it was good seeing the finale with all the different nationalities represented there, and I think it's a great leap forward for the PRS in general to have all that international presence. It's
Oh,
great
I
for the
agree.
sport.
I agree. And that's why I'm looking so forward to the championship match in September. Seeing how everyone from all these different and like I mean, I never would have thought there'd be Thai guys coming to shoot. I mean, that's
No,
I
it's like
mean,
there's guys, there's so many nationalities that you don't even know was doing precision rifle. I mean, you got Georgia, as in not the state but the country.
yeah.
They sent
Wow.
a big team to France, and you're like, wow, really? And they're still part of the IPRF, and there's like they have matches, like really, they put on good
Damn.
matches. They even wanted to put in a what do you call it, like a tender for the next worlds, and they like showed us a lot of pictures up in the mountains outside of their capital, and there's like, yeah, we have like, it's how hard is it to get there with a rifle? And there's like, well, not at all. You have a written invitation. That's about it. And
Damn.
their range looked phenomenal. And then we started looking at housing costs, and as we said, like the set of the experience, how much does it cost? What can you do
Right.
around? How's the food? Like all kinds of things. And like Georgia was it's kind of a solid option. I mean, they got a lot of good stuff going for them.
Damn. That's yeah, I would have never guessed.
Yeah, no, it's like one of those things. It's just interesting. I mean, as I said, there's African countries wanting to get in there, like not South Africa. They're already there, but I think it was Kenya. I think I had a meeting with recently.
Okay.
So there's like you'd be surprised in a few years where you see people come from who shoots precision rifle. It's there, like they're already doing it. It's just that they're just where we all were before we found game changers.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
So they need to develop their country, like in the sports and how to do matches and everything, just be like a little bit more active, and they'll be there.
Hell yeah. No, that's really fun.
So no, that's pretty cool. Anything else before we move on?
Man, I think that's all I got.
That's good. I feel a bit rude having to end this conversation now, but I have to be someplace in a little bit of time. So
Hey, no,
I really enjoyed talking to you.
it's been a lot of fun. Who you got to nominate someone?
Oh shit! Oh God! Andy Hawkins.
Okay. All right. I will get with Andy. Uh, and we'll get
He
him
is
on
one
here.
of my favorite guys to talk with because the amount of knowledge that he has, it's big. Like he has a lot of knowledge of a lot of stuff. He comes
Awesome.
like I've noticed that he might not be the most vocal guy about on like on social media and things. He's kind of a laid back role because of his like he runs a business.
Right.
But like when you get into all the little details and technical stuff, man, that guy's just a wealth of knowledge.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Well, dude, thank you for coming on. Thanks for talking and trying to help uh jump this to
Trying
the
to
Joe
make you
Rogan of the Precision
yeah,
Rifle
exactly.
podcast.
We just need to push it to the 4 hour mark first.
We'll do it on the next one. Well, after the championship, we'll do it again.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. No, that'll be
all
great.
right, all right, buddy. Well,
All
hey,
right.
thank you
Thank you,
so
Mike.
much. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, take care.